At 6 o'clock, we're going to open the Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, May 28th, 2019.
Would you like roll call?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Stevens?
Here.
Commissioner Barr?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Vice Chairman St. Martin?
Here.
Chairman Tinker?
Here. Okay, if we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
No.
Okay. And do we have any conflicts? No. Okay, we have no conflicts. Okay, any person may address the Planning Commission on any matter not on this agenda. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public comment form provided at the back table and give it to the city clerk. There's a 3-minute time limit on public comments. There'll be no sharing of your time to another person. State law prohibits the commission for discussing or taking action brought up by your comments. Do we have?
I don't have any requests for anything not on the agenda.
Okay. Then item number 1, plot plan PP 2019-0196, proposed apartment complex for special needs populations consisting of 47 one-unit bedrooms and 1 3-unit bedroom. I'm going to open the public hearing on that at this time at 6:03. Public hearing is open.
Good evening, Commissioners. You have before you tonight for your consideration a proposed apartment complex consisting of 47 one-bedroom units and 1 3-bedroom manager's unit with parking spaces, open space, and a community building on 1.5 acres located on the east side of Allegheny Avenue north of 6th Street in the Commercial General Zone, also in Planning Area 7 of the City of Beaumont's housing element. The proposed project entails development and operation of an affordable rental apartment complex consisting of 47 one-bedroom units and 1 3-bedroom unit. There's 17 parking spaces, a 2,850 square foot community building, and 10,408 square feet of open space. The subject site is currently vacant. It is zoned general commercial, and all the surrounding land uses and zoning are general commercial. Oh, excuse me, with the exception of the west side, there is an apartment complex, multifamily residential. The project proposes to construct 4 separate buildings. We have 2 building type A's and 1 building type B and 1 community center. Building type A is a 2-story building consisting of 16 one-bedroom units that are approximately 729 square foot each. Building B is a 2-story building consisting of 1 3-bedroom manager's unit that's approximately 1,390 square feet and 15 one-bedroom units that are 729 square foot each. The community building is a single-story building. The municipal code allows the general commercial zone structures up to 3 stories or 35 feet in height, and each of the proposed buildings are under that maximum allowable. The site is proposing to take access from 2 points on Allegheny. You have 1 driveway proposed on the south side of the property and 1 driveway proposed on the north side of the property. Both driveways are designed at a width to accommodate ingress and egress from the site and circulation throughout the property. The Beaumont Municipal Code requires 1.25 parking spaces per 1-bedroom unit and 2.5 spaces per unit for any unit with more than 1 bedroom. Per AB 744, parking requirements for supportive housing projects such as these are calculated at 0.3 spaces per unit. The complex will have 47 one-bedroom units requiring 14 spaces, and the 1 3-bedroom unit would require 2.5 spaces. Brings the total to 16.6, and in the municipal code, we always round up, so that makes a total of 17 spaces, which is what's provided. The commercial general zone does not have setback requirements when a property is adjacent to the general commercial zone. However, the code does require 25-foot setback in the front and side setbacks of 15 feet for two-story buildings and rear yard setbacks of 15 feet. The applicant is proposing 25-foot landscape front yard setback, which does meet the code requirement. However, the site plan shows a 10-foot setback on each side and 5 to 7 foot setbacks in the rear of the property. The municipal code specifies that the city can provide at least one additional incentive to qualifying projects. The proposed supportive housing project meets the requirements for receiving these additional incentives, and so we are reducing the setback requirements as one of those incentives. The open space requirement for multifamily residential is 200 square feet per one bedroom and 400 square foot for a 3-bedroom unit. Total open space requirement for this project is 9,800 square feet, and the applicant is proposing just over 10,400 square feet, so it does meet the open space requirements. This project does qualify for a density bonus. The general plan and zoning code establish a maximum of 24 units per acre in the 6th Street overlay of the general commercial zone. This project is identified in Planning Area 7 of the city's housing element and qualifies for the Affordable Housing Incentive Density Bonus provision. And the intent of this bonus is to facilitate the development of affordable housing, to implement goals and objectives of the housing element in the general plan. The project is classified as a lower income project. The Beaumont Municipal Code allows lower income household projects up to a maximum of 35% density bonus based on the number of affordable units. This project is all affordable and it qualifies for the full 35% density bonus for a maximum density of 32.4 units per acre. The project is proposed at 30.8 units per acre and is within the maximum allowable density. The municipal code requires that Link Housing and the City of Beaumont enter into a density bonus housing agreement. If the project is approved tonight, a recommendation by the Planning Commission will be forwarded to the City Council for final execution of the agreement. This project does qualify as CEQA exempt under Section 15332 infill developments. There are findings necessary to be made for approval of this plot plan application. All of the findings can be made in a positive manner and they are identified in the staff report. Staff is recommending the commission hold a public hearing and approve plot plan 2019-0196 for proposed apartment complex for special needs populations, subject to the findings and attached conditions of approval, and forward a recommendation of approval of the density bonus housing agreement to the City Council. Staff is available if you have any questions, and the applicant is also present in the audience if you have any questions.
Mr. St. Martin?
Why did we cut back on the parking spaces?
So this,
It seems like that would create a problem for the tenants.
so in an ordinary apartment complex, it would indeed be a problem. This is a project designed for special needs populations. So it is not anticipated that there will be a terrible amount of driving or cars coming in and out. They are of a certain certain income level and meeting certain qualifications of the services provided by the by Link Housing, by the apartment complex, and the wraparound services that are offered there. It's also pretty close to the transit stop along 6th Street, and so the state of California has established AB 744, which said that if a project meets those requirements, that the city is required to reduce the parking to that 0.3 spaces per unit as we calculated here in the staff report.
So the developer is going to provide transportation, a source of transportation?
Not necessarily, they're not required to provide it. There could be services that come in and out that would transport, but it's not a requirement. They are within close proximity to one of the bus stops on 6th Street, which would meet what the state requires in order for the city to reduce the parking requirement.
Thank you.
That was my question as well.
I have a question for the applicant when we're ready for that.
Well, jump out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. You might want to state your name and who you represent.
Sure, my name is Cody Snyder. I'm the project manager for this project with Link Housing, the developer.
So the application is targeted to special populations. What populations are you targeting with this project?
Sure, so this is a general special needs project. Typically that means homeless. In this case, it's probably going to be half chronically homeless. Some of the exact funding sources for this, which determine that, are yet to be fully baked in. However, that's what it looks like. We have another project on Illinois Street that was for veteran homeless individuals and families, and in this case, this project is not proposed for veterans, but more of a general population of homeless individuals with special needs.
Okay. And then the income cap set at 80% of median?
The project will actually be for individuals who are at 30%, most likely. This is where the state requirements come down with the tax credit allocation committee for this particular kind of project. However, at the city level, when we enter into covenants with cities, we try to have those a little bit higher, and this just has to do with our internal underwriting. Eventually, in 55 years, when we'll all be dead, it helps the accountants kind of figure that out a little bit better. And it also helps our compliance department. This project is probably going to be under at least 3 or 4 levels of compliance for affordability. And making the city level covenants at 80% helps us deal with one less limiting factor on that.
So what is the screening process that potential tenants would go through?
Sure. So to that, that's not my area of expertise.
Right.
However, it's a similar process to the one that they go through at our other veterans property. However, that has the VA involved. In this case, it's led by Link Housing as well as the county. The county has a department that sort of has lists and databases of people who need help in the area, and so we work with them to coordinate. They recommend people for housing at this property, and then they go through our vetting process where we make sure that they don't have criminal history, et cetera, and make sure that we have the services that they're going to be able to need. We have case managers on site to make sure that the people who are housed at the property are properly connected with the different services that us and our partners offer.
So what services are you proposing on or having, or potential services you see from other projects you've had in the region that would be utilized in the community building to benefit the population?
Sure. So substance abuse counseling, domestic abuse counseling in many cases, some workforce development, computer literacy, financial literacy, things of this nature. We have a whole brochure list, which I would definitely be very happy to forward along as well.
Okay. And these are programs that you utilize at other facilities in the region?
Yes, we have a whole division of our company called Link Cares, which focuses on the services to our residents. And for these properties in particular, we have a whole kind of dedicated staff for these. And then we also work with service providers at these properties, which, these populations this is all they do. They're nonprofits, charities, and they exist to help these people and get them into these counseling services that they offer. So there'll be staff on site Monday through Friday from this organization that we're working with.
Okay. I know one of the questions that comes up typically is, maintenance of the property, as you're looking forward. I know can be a concern whenever you have an affordable project. What measures are taken in place to ensure that the property is kept up to a high community standard?
Well, I used to work in market rate housing before I went to the nonprofit side, and our operating metrics are a lot different. Our budget for maintenance, our budget for when you have to turn a unit is much higher in terms of how much it's going to cost. We expect some wear and tear in these cases. I'm not sure exactly this property, but it's very likely that one thing we might have to provide is furniture for the residents. so that when they come in, it's pre-furnished already for them, right? And so every time the unit turns, we provide that furniture again. So the budget is far higher than in that area for maintenance and upkeep of the property than you find in a market rate project.
Okay. That's my general questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of my questions were answered, so thank you.
Nathan's pretty thorough.
Yeah. So the special needs sort of definition has already been described, but the one question I did have is, especially when the county is involved, are these special needs residents coming into Beaumont and relocating, or are we concentrating, or are you concentrating on getting in the local special needs citizens to take advantage of this program? How is that vetting process, and are we concentrating on our citizens here that need help?
I would be very happy to give you a little more information to make sure that the information I'm providing right now is accurate. I believe the county of Riverside is one of the counties, they have sub-areas. And so they do kind of allocate the people who are from this area and are having problems, allocate them to these developments to live near the places where they're from. However, they're not necessarily going to be from Beaumont. I don't know the exact sub-area or how the different sub-jurisdictions that they've designated in Riverside County. But if that information is helpful, I can definitely get that over to you guys.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions. Is this part of, is there any Section 8 funds in here?
Yeah, the project does use, will use vouchers. I believe it is a Section 8 project-based voucher. However, and forgive me, again, I can back this up, of course, with performas and everything on what we're projecting. I believe it's a Section 8 project-based voucher that's going to come in here. It's administered, in this case, through the county again, so.
I guess my next question, and it goes back to what you were talking about. You were talking about on-site support. Is there going to be city officials or county officials or whomever permanently on site there assigned to assist these people, or is this just going to be a blow-in and blow-out situation?
No, it's not city or county staff that would be there. It's members of the organization that we're working with. In many cases, it's the people concerned. Is one that we work with, and oftentimes, that may not be the one we're working with here actually, but the organization, for example, the People Concerned, which is a very similar one to the one that would be here, has properties all throughout Southern California, and they deal with thousands of residents at different properties, and this is all they do. What they do is they have case managers there Monday through Friday during business hours, and the residents can come and see them, and then their job basically is to counsel them and make sure that if they need domestic abuse counseling, or if they need financial literacy help, or if they need workforce training, that they are connected with those services. So that's really their entire purpose, is they are like a broker for the different services that they offer within their organization, and also that the county, they work in concert with the county and the services that can be had through them.
You know, the one concern I have here is, I think it's a good idea, but you keep referring to Monday through Friday.
Sure.
If people have got domestic problems or financial problems and all that, that doesn't end on Friday afternoon.
No, that's definitely true. On-site staff is there all the time. This particular organization that provides the services, the counseling, for example, that's who's there Monday through Friday. It's not that they're not going to be available outside of those hours. It's just that they have on-site dedicated staff during that time. And as far as the staff that's there 24/7, we have our Link Cares staff that provides our services at all of our properties, as well as our property management staff that are there all the time.
Any other questions?
You may not know the answer to this, but do you know about how long a resident may be in there as they're getting assistance before they're able to move on and be able to support themselves?
Yeah, That's a little bit different model of housing than this one.
Okay.
And this is really dictated by the funding sources, namely the state tax credits and the way the programs work and the state funding sources that will be used here. This is permanent supportive housing. So this is meant to be somebody's home until they have moved well beyond needing help and are ready. If they want to take the next step, then we celebrate that. But we're not able to kind of have a rotating, we're not able to force the rotation, so to speak.
So you're
It's not how this works.
expecting longer-term residents to be utilizing this?
Yes, and our average stay for residents is, over a decade. We're talking about after the property gets stabilized, people stay.
And that's the same
So
model
this
as
is it.
veterans housing down the street?
As what?
The veterans housing you have down the street, that's,
Yeah, the veterans housing is also meant to be permanent supportive housing. The veterans are a different population and they
Right.
come with their own twists, but
right.
yes, that's also the same as that. Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
I have one
Mr.
question. As part of the conditions, it says if a video surveillance system is to be utilized, I certainly hope that there's going to be one installed, and I think the time period of retention for that video should be, it says 30 days, but in my opinion, it should be a little longer, but certainly hope you have one installed on there.
Yes, of course. All of our properties definitely have video surveillance. Even market rate projects have those, and we take that very seriously.
Can we condition this to expand that length of time for the?
Sure, yeah, this is a standard police department condition, but we can extend that. You let me know how long?
90? What would you like?
I was going to say 90 or 120.
120 might be, that might be on the long side.
120 days?
I think 90 is probably.
I think 90's fine.
Yeah, I think 90 is the standard.
Okay, then, if we approve this, well, we're gonna want that 90-day retention on surveillance photos or videos. Yeah. Okay, is there any other comments from any commissioner?
No.
Any other comments from staff?
Questions for staff.
Sure.
Exterior maintenance of the property, is there a CCNRs recorded against it for maintenance, or is it enforced through city code?
It's enforced through city code compliance
Okay.
and code enforcement. Anytime we receive a complaint, anonymous or otherwise, code enforcement goes out, probably within 24 hours and investigates. They'll issue a, typical process, issue a warning or a courtesy notice, and then give them, depending on the violation, a certain length of time to get everything back up and then come back out again.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing at 6:25.
Oh, you got it. Public speaker, right?
No,
No, this one.
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's already in. Sorry, quit picking on me. I'm sensitive. Okay, we've had our public hearing now. I will entertain a motion to approve or not approve plot plan PP 2019-0196 with the caveat that the surveillance will be extended to 90 days.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a move by Commissioner St. Martin. There's a second by Commissioner Barr.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Barr?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Chair St. Martin?
Yes.
Chairman Tinker?
Yes. Okay, we're good. Now we're gonna go to, okay, we'll move to item number 2. The plot plan PP 2018-0154 and mitigated negative declaration for a proposed storage yard for freeway construction and maintenance materials on 2.83 acres located at 310 Elm Street. Do I have any speakers?
Yes, sir. Do you want to hear the speakers before the staff report?
No, actually, I'll do the I'll do the staff report first.
Good evening.
I'm learning.
You can interject falsely, so you gotta keep me in line.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, and staff. Carol Kendrick presenting Plot Plan PP 2018-0154 for a proposed storage yard and freeway construction and maintenance materials on a 2.83 acre lot located at 310 Elm Street. The project the subject site has an existing single-family residence that was constructed between 1950 and 1970. It's approximately 2,200 square feet. It is proposed to remain on site to store signs and smaller construction materials. It will also maintain the 2 parking spaces existing on site. There is also 4 existing outbuildings and 1 storage shed that will be removed to accommodate the project. The subject zoning is manufacturing with a general plan designation of industrial. There is a manufacturing zones located to the property to the north and to the west, and there's single-family residential zones to the south and the east. The general plan adjacent to the property is industrial to the north, south, and west, and it's single-family residential to the east. The project does propose freeway construction and maintenance materials that include steel beams, K-rails, small construction equipment. It will not include any stockpiling operation. As I mentioned before, this site will be cleared with the exception of the single-family residence. It will include the demolition of the outbuildings, the shed, the chain link fencing, and vegetation on site. The property is intended to be used for a launching site for the company, and they work throughout Southern California doing freeway projects. They have no current contracts, but they anticipate work in Beaumont, Banning, Palm Springs, Redlands, and throughout the Southern California area. The property will have access points from Elm and Olive Avenues. It will take access, the entry will be from a 40-foot wide drive on Elm. The exiting will be on Olive Avenue. It will be on a 40-foot wide driveway covered with 4 to 6 inches of crushed recycled base. It will be accessed by trucks with 18-wheel trailers to pick up the equipment. The project is also proposing to add a 5-foot landscape buffer around the perimeter property and half-width improvements on Elm and Olive Avenues. They are also proposing a 6-foot high block wall on Elm and Olive, and then they're proposing screen fencing adjacent to the properties to the north and south, which would include chain link fencing with slats. Staff did originally bring this up as a concern. However, most of the properties are non-conforming. They have a manufacturing zone, but existing single-family residence, with the exception of the property to the east. So I think that the chain link fencing with the slats is appropriate. They are not proposing any signage, and their hours of operation will be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They anticipate 10 to 15 trips per month, but at a worst-case scenario, they'll have 3 trips a day. There's no staff on site, but they could have up to 8 workers on site when they're picking up or dropping off materials. This project did prepare initial study and mitigated negative declaration that was out for comment, which closed on May 27th. Staff did not receive any comments, with exception of 3 of our Native American tribes that just either concurred with the document or requested additional information that was provided by staff. The proposed use is allowed in the manufacturing zone, subject to a plot plan. And the planning, and it is also required to make findings for the approval of the plot plan. In approving or denying that's consistent with the municipal code that the findings are. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve plot plan PP 2018-0154 and the mitigated negative declaration for proposed storage yard for freeway construction and maintenance materials, subject to the findings and attached conditions of approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have questions for staff, or I'm going to open the public hearing?
Open the public hearing.
I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:30. Do we have speakers?
Yes, sir. First speaker is Peggy McClung.
Rick Fitch.
I-
Mr.
No,
Chairman.
no, wait a minute. You'll be called up in order that she's received your request.
The first one is Peggy McClung.
Hi.
State your name and your address, please.
Okay, my name is Peggy McClung, and the address is 330 Elm Avenue. It is the property that is it's beside and will border on two sides, the proposed property. My water line comes across that property to the back of my house. And actually, if this is my property, that property runs along here. It actually runs to a capped off water spigot for a old watering trough from when that property was cattle. And had a portion go over to the old rock house that's right there before coming actually onto the side of my property to gain access to water from my property. I know that I was assured at one time that there was water easement for my property across there, but the gentleman who is purchasing the property says he has not been provided that evidence of that easement from the water district. And there's also a concern, I'm concerned about being able to actually maintain access to my water. I know the other 4 residents that have in the neighborhood that are also homes that have been there for many years. Mine has been there since the late 1920s, are also concerned about maintaining their water access. I think Mr. Medina is here to talk about that as well. And the other piece that I am concerned about is that when the gentleman's surveyor came out, he surveyed my side of the old alley that is supposed to get split between the 2 properties as the alley was closed out. But even though I told the surveyor that it was an old alleyway, I showed him where the markers were for the other side of the old alleyway, he refused to, even when I tried to show him my deed, mark the middle of that alleyway, even though half of that old alleyway was supposed to be attached to my property. So I want to make sure that both of those issues get resolved before any kind of building occurs. Thank you.
Next speaker is Pat Ortiz.
I'm Pat Ortiz. I'm the managing partner of 310 Elm LLC, the potential buyer. We received the negative declaration report. My staff got it Thursday. I didn't see it till Friday. And I have concerns about item 91. It talks about a noise barrier, and it requires a certain sequence of work that I don't think is practical. And I don't know if there's any way I can change the sequence. I prefer to clear the site and then put up the permanent fences and attach the sound barrier to the fence. The way it's written up is I have to put the fence up first, or the sound barrier first. And that's not very practical. We have almost 1,000 feet of this barrier, so I need a truck and equipment to be able to get around the interior perimeter to unload and erect this, so it only makes sense to clear and get the site ready for the fence before I put the barrier up in the sequence they've written into the requirements. Secondly, I don't know that it's really required. I don't think we're gonna make that much noise. The type of equipment we're using is all current, and we have decibel meters that we check ourselves, so I don't think it's as bad as it's made out to be. But if that can't be changed, I would like at least to change the sequence of the work. I am a contractor. I'm currently working for the city. We're familiar with building things, and it doesn't make sense the way I'm required to do it. Thank you.
Next speaker is Rick Fitch.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, Rick Fitch with Hunsaker and Associates, 3 Hughes, Irvine. I want to thank the staff for working with me on the staff report, and other than the condition 91, I think the only thing I want to make sure eventually we get clarification that a lot of the conditions that are on here are kind of standard conditions that would, for the most part, won't apply because we're not constructing anything that would need us to change the sewer or utilities or any of that kind of thing. Now, in the future, if Mr. Ortiz decides to do something more, then certainly we understand that that's required, and we'd certainly comply with that. Other than that, just mention that the survey that I think she's talking about, I don't know exactly when that happened, but I don't think it was anything to do with us. I think it was the current owner or previous owner that was verifying the corners of a record of survey that was done previous to that. I mean, I could get that information. So I don't know this issue. I mean, certainly, if she owns the land, we're certainly going to, abide by that once we see the deeds and all the required legal descriptions. Also, as far as the water line, once again, we have a title report that doesn't seem to have any information about these water lines. Maybe perhaps somebody can provide us with some deeds or whatever they have that written that shows us where the water lines are. I spoke to Mr. Ortiz, one of his people out in the field, and he intends to pothole the water lines, is try and locate them. And certainly we would protect them and not try to, make sure they continue to operate and not be a problem. So other than that, I'm here to answer any questions if you have anything.
Mr. St. Martin?
Not yet.
I have questions I'll after we go to that one.
Next speaker is Thomas Medina.
My name is Thomas Medina. I live at 248 Elm. I'm at the very, I can show you guys. I live right in this section right here. And my water line also crosses from Elm. All our water lines go from Olive Street to the housing in this Elm Street. And my water line comes right across right here. I'm surprised that when they checked with the water district, they were not aware of, or they weren't given any information on where the water lines are at. But they know the meters are on, all are on Olive Street. As far as the lady speaking earlier about the alleyway, at one time, all the gas service was going down the alleyway, which is actually right down, right here. That was the alleyway, right there, straight through like that. When the Baldy brothers built their area over there, they closed off the alleyway. And the city supposedly in those days, let's see, Baldy brothers built in the 90s, each person got half of the alleyway. But the gas line did go down that alleyway, and it still comes up on my property, not the gas line, but the old gas line. I have now the gas is serviced on Elm Street. I don't know what they're gonna end up, if they're gonna pave that property or not, but right now the runoff going down Wellwood Street, or Elm, I'm sorry, down Elm Street, is a lot of water goes down that street, and it's the erosion at the end of that property is really falling apart. This has nothing to do mainly with this project yet, but if they ever decide to pave it, there's gonna be more water going down Elm, and the erosion is really getting to be pretty bad at the end of Elm Street, where actually that's my interest in my property. That's all I have to say. I'm just worried about the water lines, because if something ever happens and and it breaks, I'm responsible from the meter to my house, and my water line actually goes right across this property here. It used to be Mrs. Knox's property. So it's gonna really sort of screw us all up, and unless the water line gets service through the front on Wellwood, then it'll be okay, but otherwise, we're gonna be caught in a big mess there. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Deborah Snow.
I'm the current owner of the property that's going to be developed at 310 Elm. I mistook when I told you that my mom lived there for 93 years. She didn't. She lived there until she was 93 years old, with the intent that it be sold for manufacturing one day, so we would get more money for it. So she hung in there. I just want to say that the Ortez Company has been great dealing with as a buyer. I know they've worked really hard for 10 months, going over everything. This project meets all the zoning requirements that you have. I understand there's a water concern. I don't know how all the water lines happen to get across my property, but that was done a long time ago. And I do know in their requirements it says they will meet all water requirements. And I'm sure they should be able to find out something from the water company. But I know that is not an insurmountable problem. I've talked to a couple people that deal with construction, and that should not be hard to take care of once they know where they are. My mom passed 11 years ago, so I'm very happy that I finally found a good buyer. I know they've worked hard on environmental concerns and the burrowing owls and I don't even know what all. I don't have the entire environmental report in front of me. And the Native Americans who will be on site. The construction noise I'm not concerned about because it will only be within daytime hours. It's not going to be all the time or anything. I think 7 to 7 perhaps. And the primary loud construction, I believe, was just going to be a few days. And I think it'll bring in taxes and jobs to Beaumont, and I think it'll be a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any other requests to speak.
Okay. I'm gonna leave the public hearing open. I'm gonna address staff, let staff. Mr. St. Martin?
Not right now.
Commissioner Barr?
Not right now.
Commissioner Stevens?
Nothing.
I'm not even gonna ask.
So, within the conditions of approval, one of the things that jumped out at me is, knowing that this is a transitional area, as it's migrating from historic housing to manufacturing, is trying to protect some of the homeowners that are already. The one thing that jumped out at me is ingress and egress, and the possibility, and I'm not sure, I don't think there'd be an objection from the owner to restrict trucks from going down Third, where there are the homes on either side, but limiting the access to all of an Elm as is stated up to 4th Street, to access the freeway on there. I think just to protect the homeowners on 3rd Street. Third doesn't really go anywhere anyway. So it seems like it'd be logical on that, but just to have something in there to, just kind of implement it a little bit more. And hearing stories about the water lines, you know, these homes are going back to the 20s, I'm not surprised that there's poor record keeping of easements on where these things may have been. You know, I just want to make sure that, you know, if the applicant is willing, you know, they would be able to either protect or relocate or grant some kind of easement that if those laterals are disturbed or damaged by operations of their business, that they would be responsible for replacing them. You know, if those laterals are crossing the property, you do find out through the potholing effort.
Yeah, if, we have spoken with some of the residents, if there are water lines that are existing there, staff will require that there be easements allowed because, we would want to make sure that Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District can maintain the pipes, or if work needs to be done, you know, by any of the residents, that it be able to be done. So that would be a given. How we go about validating that, I think we'll have to require some, I probably need to get in touch with the water district.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, 'cause the water
and figure
district
that out
probably
first.
Say up to the meter is theirs,
Right.
beyond is private, so it may have to be private easements potentially.
Right.
For maintenance of the water lateral, and just limit the language to that, but, there may need to be something on there if those facilities are there, or if they're going to be relocated onto a south boundary and are along, you know, whatever it might be, there's, you know, as, I forget, was it Mrs. Snow? You know, she alluded to, there's nothing that's not insurmountable.
Right.
You know,
And,
it's all workable.
and the applicants are not proposing to construct anything, so I think allowing the easement for maintenance is a reasonable request. If we were constructing buildings, then I think relocation would be something that we'd have to consider, but at this point in time, because there's no construction of anything, we should be able to address it with easements for maintenance.
I agree.
Is there a brick wall going up?
Yes, but I don't believe it crosses any of the water lines. You're, on your side?
If it goes down the alley, it sure will. Across all of our lines. But you gotta have a good footing in the block wall that goes up.
Again, I mean, it's not insurmountable. So, you know, there's ways that can be worked out and that can be achieved where, you would have rights and, you know, if the easement's written in such a manner that says that, you're responsible for maintaining the water line, but you're not responsible for rebuilding any structures or facilities that cross the easement, you know, then, you know, it would kind of fall back, you know, it's gonna basically force cooperation, I think, between the two ownerships to, you know, to make sure that everything stays in a good state. But I mean, there's ways with the easement language to be able to write something like that.
But did you know how deep a footing goes for a brick wall or a block wall?
Yes.
It goes pretty deep.
It could.
Those lines are not that deep. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, and water, the service should be, you know, protected, you know, for everybody on there. I don't believe there's a water line in Elm Street that could even be meters relocated onto. I don't know that for sure.
There's no meters on, no, there's no meters on water.
Yeah, we'll have to verify
They're
that.
all off of
But, you know, that would be part of what I would say is as a condition for the project, is to ensure continuous service and maintenance of the water meters, because most likely they're not going to be public and the water district's not gonna have any say with it. You know, just to make sure that the homeowners have the ability to go and repair it, you know, should that be necessary. You mentioned for runoff and water, you know, the applicant was proposing base material, so it's just gonna be gravel. So the runoff should not be increased over what it was in this current condition now, but I do see what you were saying at the end of Elm.
It does when it downpours.
Well-
Water just comes from all over the place.
Right, but
I
it
have
shouldn't,
pictures to prove it.
it shouldn't run off more with the base down than it does with just the condition as it is now. So because you're not paving the road, the water still has the ability to kind of absorb through the gravel material. So if it, you know, if it's not paved, you know, in theory, that's that's there. You know, so you shouldn't see any change from that. You know, with water quality documents, you still consider that to be a pervious surface. You know, it's fully pervious, so.
Mr. Chairman. Christine, have we heard from any of the residents on the east side of Olive?
The first The first I've heard from any residents has been this evening, with the exception of Mr. Medina, who has come into the office and seen me once before, but I've not heard from any of the residents across Olive.
So there's no concern there? The residents across the street have no concern?
No one has reached out to us either in writing, in email, in person, or by phone, no.
At least us on Elm didn't actually get letters. Most of us were
Can
informed by my
the microphone isn't gonna pick up your voice, so if you'd like to speak, you'll have to ask the chairman.
Yes, if you'd like to speak, why don't you come up to the microphone and your name and address, please?
I'm sorry. My name's Ariel McClung, and I'm at 330 Elm Avenue.
Okay.
And the only thing I wanted to mention in response to what you were saying was that most of us haven't received letters about the property. We've been informed by my aunt about what's been going on. We did get a letter about this particular meeting, but it is possible that the residents on Olive haven't heard about what's going on, and so therefore they haven't had the opportunity to give input. And I just wanted to make sure you were aware of it.
So this is a permitted use, so there's no additional outreach that would be required beyond the public noticing that was provided to the residents. We have the list here of all of the properties within the 300-foot radius as required by state law. And 330 Elm Avenue, Ms. McClung is on here along with several others. But as she stated, there would not have been any outreach previously just because it's not anything out of the ordinary for this particular zone.
It's a conforming
use, correct. Uh-huh.
Commissioner Bart? Commissioner Stevens?
No, no questions.
I have a couple concerns, and it's been beat to death, so this water line issue, that needs to be resolved. You know, I'm neither here nor there with the project. With Mr. Medina's concern, I was down on the road today and I see where the erosion down on the end, actually it's almost taken out a fire hydrant down there, and I saw that. So that, if they're gonna put a class 2 base in, that's pretty porous, so it shouldn't cause any additional runoff. The other concern I have is, you say there's not gonna be any stockpiled debris. This is purely a materials yard?
Yes.
Okay, so that we won't have to experience somebody coming in, dumping a load of stuff from a construction site or anything else.
No, we plan on keeping it locked. We don't want anybody else in there but us.
Okay. And if I understand this correctly, there'll be no activity on the weekends. So this is purely a Monday through Friday, 7 to 7 p.m. type activity with minimal amount of truck traffic. And I like Commissioner Smith said, when there's no activity on 3rd Street.
Right. We will amend the conditions, or add the condition that limits access to Olive and Elm, and then 4th Street as the route out.
Can we, 2 questions. I'm real concerned about this water issue. Can we make that a condition of approval, that this water issue gets resolved to your satisfaction?
Talking about the water line issues,
Yeah,
right?
the water
Yes,
line
absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna come up with some language here real quick so you guys can have something that we can add to the conditions. Because it is old and there isn't a lot of information always out there, it's sort of hard to vet these things ahead of time if it's not shown on any grant deed or on any site plan or any conceptual grading plan or in any of the research that was done for the environmental. It's really hard to peg down, some of the.
Well, that's why I'm saying,
Yeah.
if as long as it meets, you're satisfied that the problem's being resolved, then I'm okay with it, because,
Right.
when you're trying to research things, and we all know, things that are older than yesterday, I'm in trouble with, so. The other issue, the question that came up was item 91. I would think that that should be something that should be resolved between the building department or yourselves and the
So if the commission will permit, we have the consultant from LSA who prepared the environmental document that may be able to speak to some of the reasons why item 91 was put in place, and then talk about if there are any alternatives or anything that would need to be addressed, if that would please the commission.
It was.
Carl, would you like to?
Please, your name and address.
My name is Carl Winter, 1500 Iowa Avenue in Riverside, California. At the request of the city, during the review of the initial study, construction noise impacts were evaluated. The assumption, the noise levels that are identified in the initial study are based on standard construction noise from standard construction equipment, and the noise levels that are in the initial study are based on that. If there is a different equipment mix that is provided that has a lower construction noise, then the noise levels would be reduced to a level of significance, so the mitigation would be required, or this specific mitigation would be required. So perhaps an alternative would be, for the applicant to provide evidence that the noise, the equipment used in the vicinity of those sensitive receptors, and this is just for construction noise, very short-term construction, that the noise levels from those equipment pieces are below a level that would not generate an exceedance of the city's noise standard for those reasons.
Help me out here. Did we get a list of equipment from the contractor that was going to be used?
It was standard construction that is used in the noise modeling.
Okay, well, I guess
You're assuming scrapers and dozers.
Right.
And
Yeah, but
Scrapers and dozers, yeah, which if.
We're not using scrapers and
Well, see,
dozers.
Right, okay, so.
Hang on a second.
Give you the list.
Hang on a second. It's what I'm trying to get to here. If we have a list of the equipment that the contractor's going to use, because like Commissioner Smith said, I have a concern, I don't see them using the, D8 dozers down there, I don't see scrapers going in down there.
Right.
What I'm trying to get to is if the contractor can provide you with a list of the equipment that they're going to use, then can we get to the point where maybe we can reevaluate 91?
Well, I think we just rewrite 91 to say, that this is a condition that is enforced unless the applicant is able to provide.
Exactly, and CEQA requires that when you substitute or delete a mitigation measure, which we have a mitigation measure in the document, that the staff just has to make a written finding that the equally effective measure will resolve that issue.
Right.
So.
Can we do that as part of the approval action this evening, or do we need to go back
No, you
and
can do it.
recirculate
It just has to be a separate. It has to be a separate action that you.
That we'll act on. So they'll
that
make
you act
their.
on. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sure.
And then whatever the measure is, you have to identify what the measure would be. Like provide evidence that the equipment used would reduce noise to below the level.
Okay.
And then the issue goes away.
So thank you. If we approve or have a motion to approve this particular mitigation, then we have to add another kicker in there for 91.
So what we'll do is we will make a recommendation first that we, for the mitigation measure, and then with that in place, can make the approval of the project if that's what you so choose to do, with the amended conditions of limiting access and requiring the easement for the water line. So if at any point in time when you're done with your questions or discussion for staff or for the applicants, if you would give us a 5-minute or so recess to see if we can draft an appropriate condition to insert so you guys can decide if you want to act on it or not, we would appreciate that.
Okay, and I closed the public hearing, correct?
Not yet.
Oh, I thought it did. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7 p.m. and we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
So we just. Thank you for that. So we just, I want to make sure we get this right, so we don't. Okay.
You're fine. Call this meeting back to order at 10 minutes after 7.
Commissioners, if you have any additional questions for staff, we'll be happy to answer them. If not, I will have Carol read for you the amended conditions that we're going to have so that you can decide what action you would like to take this evening.
Okay.
So in regards to condition number 91 on the noise, per CEQA section 15074.1, we'd like to amend the condition to read, prior to the issuance of a grading permit, the applicant shall provide evidence that the equipment utilized to clear the site shall not generate noise levels above 55 dBA per the city's interior noise standard. We also wanted to include a new condition. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy or grading permit, the applicant shall verify existing water lines on site and record an easement for maintenance and continuous service to the affected property owners on Elm Street or to the satisfaction of the planning department and the public works department.
For that one, I would recommend per building permit, so, because that'll be whatever builds the
They're
walls.
not, they're not constructing anything.
But you have to get a building permit for the block wall, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So part of the issuance of building permit?
Yeah.
And then also the addition of the condition to, that restricts access on Third Street, so that the project shall only utilize Fourth Street to access to Elm and Olive Avenues.
Okay. All right, before we go any further, Mr. Medina, you had a comment or question, sir?
You get a permit for a block wall, but you also need one for a chain link fence, don't you?
No.
Well, you don't now. Only when I had to put it up, I needed it done.
Yeah, but they just wanted to get your money. That was all that was.
That I believe.
Okay, can I ask another question?
Yes, sir.
For those of you that live down there that have a concern, did you just hear what we're gonna make as part of the condition of this? Is that could you read it again? I want them to
For
understand.
the water?
The water.
Okay. Go ahead.
Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall verify existing water lines on site and record an easement for maintenance and continuous service to the affected property owners on Elm Street or to the satisfaction of the Public Works Director and Community Development Director.
If that easement doesn't do us any good, if something happens on that property to our water lines on a weekend, it's all locked up.
Well, I'm sure that,
I'm talking about gophers, gophers, and we have a lot of gophers and squirrels over there. Gophers are.
come up to my yard. I'm on 12th Street and I got a yard full of gophers, so.
If-
Okay, but I think the point we're trying to make here is we're making it a condition to protect your water.
And
Okay?
if there is a true emergency on the weekend and fire or PD or someone is called out for something like that, they'll have, Knox box or access to get onto the property. So if it is a true emergency where something needs to be addressed like that, your city emergency services will be able to assist.
Yeah.
Commissioner, before you make the motion, I'd like to just make sure the applicant concurs with these changes, if you can have him indicate.
Are you understanding what we're talking about here?
Yes, I want to understand that.
Please come out to the podium. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to understand the easement. We'd like to get the water company. We have the title, and it doesn't show on the title, so we want to confirm that everything that we've heard tonight matches what the water district is going to tell us. We heard tonight there's 4 lines coming in. We have only found 2 in the plans, so we need to see where they're at and how we're going to grant access to those locations.
I think that's part of what the intent with to the
Yes.
satisfaction, would be for that. If there's 2 in the ground and they split and serve multiple properties, then, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But, the intent of the easement being, if it is a public water system and the water agency is gonna maintain it, then obviously the easement would be to the water agency. If the water agency is only taken up to the meter of the curb, then the property owner would need to be able to maintain their water service, in the event that something were to happen, the easement would grant the rights to do that as well.
Yes, I understand that.
So, I think that's the intent that we're all trying to achieve. Sounds like you are agreeable with the intent with that?
Yeah, I think the intent's common with all of us, just how we're going to make it happen
Right.
is the challenge.
Yeah, and it'll happen.
Yeah.
Okay, while you're still there, you had some concerns on 91. Are you comfortable with what we're talking about here?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I think we can clarify the types of equipment our consultant used an average. Well, we're not using scrapers and dozers.
Okay.
I know exactly what machines I'm going to put out there, and they're all small, and they run quiet, so I don't see a problem with the noise.
Okay, so I just want to, thank you. I just want to make sure that before we get too far in here, that you're okay with what we're talking about, and Mr. Medina, you're okay with what we're talking about. I'm not going to give you $1 million to agree with me now, come on.
I'm really not happy with the water lines going across the property. I thought they didn't be serviced through the front on Elm.
Well, we can't require the contractor to relocate your lines. What we're trying to do is get the contractors to work with you and the water company to protect your service. And that's what we're after here. Okay, and I think we're good there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir?
I'm sorry. Rick Fitch, I'd like to address one concern. In that wording, is it clear that either the property owner or the water district maintains the water lines, not Mr. Ortiz?
Yes,
Since it's not his water line.
That's correct. The intent
Okay.
is so that the property owners that need to service the water lines can access your property or the Ortiz property if they need to do maintenance on the lines.
Thank you.
Not expecting you all to maintain the lines.
Okay, now, do we have any more?
No.
You're done. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, how do you want to do this to make,
So we need to have a motion for the substitution on the mitigation measure, which is condition 91 first, and then you can move on the project itself however you'd like to do.
Okay, so I'll make a motion then for substitution of mitigation measure, condition number 91.
I have a motion, I need a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Smith and a second by Mr. Stevens.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Barr?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Chair St. Martin?
Yes.
Chairman Tinker?
Yes.
And then the next motion will be whatever you're moving on the project, including the other two additional conditions, restricting the access to 4th Street and the easements on the easements for the other property owners on water lines.
I'll make a motion to approve the project as described with the amended conditions of approval.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner St. Martin.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Barr?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Chair St. Martin?
Yes.
Chairman Tinker?
Yes. Okay, do we have, I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you all for your hard work tonight. I appreciate it. Not a whole lot of director comments this evening. I think most of you met Carol at the last meeting except Commissioner Stevens. So we're welcoming Carol to our staff, and she got a whiz-bang report and welcome tonight to our Planning Commission. We are looking at the calendar, and we are likely going to have a June 25th Planning Commission meeting. If you can all check your availability for that second meeting of the month, which is the 4th Tuesday, and let us know. Doesn't have to be the second if you would like to get back to Nicole.
I'm available.
You're available? Okay.
What's the date on that, 25th?
June 25th would be the 4th Tuesday.
You're lucky, because right after that, I'm on vacation.
Yeah, I'm available.
You're good at, okay.
I'm going to say not available.
Say not available.
So we're going to meet on the 11th and the 25th.
So the 11th, there's a possibility we will not be holding a meeting on the 11th. We're waiting just for some confirmation on that. Nicole and I are working on that. And we'll know here shortly, like in the next day or so, and she can get out to you The 25th, I want to put on reserve. That's another one of the projects that's got some MSHCP stuff. So depending on what comes back in the next week or so, we'll determine whether or not the project is ready for hearing on the 25th or whether or not we have to push it to a July date. So I just wanted to check your availability. There could be 2 meetings, could be no meetings in June. It could be
I'm good
one
on the
meeting.
25th, so.
Okay. So we will get back to you on that. Just for your benefit, we have received a ton of new applications again this week. So next meeting that we have, whether it's first meeting in June, second meeting in June, or July, we'll have an updated project status report for you. They'll have a whole bunch of new stuff on there. And staff has received the draft administrative version of the general plan update. So we're finally getting to start reading the document internally to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. So in another few months, hopefully it will be out for you guys to take a look at, and we can start that process. So that's sort of some good news on what has been a very long journey towards updating the general plan.
Are there going to be more subcommittee hearings prior to coming to the planning commission, or is it just going to come straight to planning?
I think it will come straight to you guys. The GPAC was held, and I know there'd been some workshops and whatnot. So basically the consultant has just been, getting all that information together and working on the document. The EIR has been in the works as well. So we haven't seen the EIR yet. Right now we're looking at just the goals and policies and the text version. So the EIR will be coming sometime after that. So we do have a little bit of a ways to go, but I don't anticipate any more subcommittee meetings, but there will be a minimum 45-day review period when the document goes out on the street. During that time, it will come to you guys, and so we'll have time for public comment and discussion as needed, whether that's 1 meeting or 2 meetings or whatever prior to getting it onto City Council at the end of that public review period. We'll take what time we need with it.
Thank you. Any other? I want to thank the members of the audience. I know this was an up and down meeting tonight. Everybody came in with some concerns. I hope that we've mitigated your concerns and got things on the right road. But thank you for your patience and your attitude out here. Thank you. With that, I'm going to close the meeting at 20 minutes after 7.